والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
This is very important. A lot of Muslims sadly believe inside their hearts that no, when we are Muslims, you need to stay away from certain things. No, believe me, when it comes to your intimate relations and your wife and your spouse, you need to understand that Islam has taught us much more than any other religion. Subhanallah. Very important. This is what enhances the relationship. Moments ago I mentioned about time. How people give preference to their friends. This friend of mine told me that I realized only after it was too late that I was wrong. It was too late. Why was he wrong? He says, I was mixing with people who were not real. And in the process, I sacrificed the real people around me. My own parents, my own wife, my own brothers and sisters, I sacrificed them. Because I was busy on the net every time. The question I have for all of us is, how many of us are guilty of exceeding the limits when it comes to the internet? Spending so much time. I'm not saying it's wrong to go and check your email or to do something constructive. The minute you waste time, you need to understand that now you are giving preference to something over a reality that is around you. There are people waiting for you. Do you know mostly what happens in our homes? The women folk do not go to work. The men go to work. This poor woman who is a new bride sometimes, or she's a wife who's been there for many years, she's got a child. From the time you leave to work, she is busy thinking about you, and she is trying to prepare a meal for you. She is, looking after the child or the children, for example, and she is looking forward to you coming. When you come, she has certain plans maybe in place. She wants to smile at you and maybe have a nice big hug as soon as you enter and so on. But sometimes when we enter the homes as men, we give them such a dirty look that their whole mountain comes crumbling. They had so many things planned, but suddenly it comes crashing. Why? Because we made a very big mistake. We came in with the wrong attitude. She has been sitting alone waiting all day for you to come home so that she can share a moment or two with you, and you come home and you share those moments with the television. And many people have this habit. They sit and watch the news and that's it. And I know that there are people in here who must be thinking, this man is addressing me. Believe me, this is a common problem across the globe. And we are here as ulama to help people identify and diagnose the problems. The divorce rates are so high because people don't know what marriage is all about. When you marry, you need to stop giving your friends preference. We had a young boy who married, and I happened to talk to him, and I even gave a lecture at his nikah. And I had said there that we must give preference to our wives over our friends. We have to. There is no option. As Muslims, we must give preference to our wives over our friends, because one is more important than the other. Your friends have other friends. Your friends have you also, but you don't have to spend so long with them. But your wife, you are the only husband for her. And what had happened is, this boy, because of the lecture that was delivered at his nikah, he decided that he is going to adopt it, and he sidelined a lot of his friends. Let's listen, it's a very interesting story. When he sidelined a lot of his friends, they began to tell him, you're a chicken, you're petticoat government, you don't wear the pants, and so on. And what happened is, he came to me because it was pressure for him. Imagine your friends every day are telling you, they message you, or they phone you, they say, you're petticoat, you're gone, you're a goner. You'd rather call her Mr. and you should call yourself Mrs. and so on. So he came to me. I told him, I said, listen brother, tell them that I don't mind you calling me a chicken or a frog, so long as I'm happy in my marriage. Because the day my marriage doesn't work, you are not going to come and resolve the matter for me. But I will not lose you as friends if you were true friends. And if you are true friends, you will send the married man home. You know, some people, when they are married and they are sitting with you, at 10 o'clock they'll tell you, look, I need to go. And everyone starts laughing. Everyone starts laughing. But I say, so what? The whole world can laugh so long as you are happy. Is there anything wrong? The whole world can laugh at you, but your marriage is working. And their marriages are not working, because when they get home, may Allah protect us, they have a disaster. One sleeps facing one direction and the other sleeps facing the other direction. Is that what marriage is all about? May Allah protect us all. And may Allah grant us the true understanding. So, this solid relationship that is there or supposed to be there between the spouses is what will result then in a solid upbringing of the children, because they will not get differing views and opinions. They will not be confused. When a child sees different things from the mother, different things from the father, and the child sees opposing views and conflict between the two, the child is confused, and after that what happens is that child then finds comfort outside the house. Outside the house. Because in the house there is chaos. In the house there is confusion. So the child then wants to find comfort at school or with some friends, especially the female child, sometimes very silent, very emotional, but at the same time they may then be caught unaware. May Allah protect us. And that brings me to another point. When we have a child in the house, this is for those men who are married, who have children. And don't worry, the women folk, your turn is coming. You know, a lot of the men must be thinking, this man is blasting us. Don't worry, we start with those who are right near here. A lot of people are guilty of not understanding what is meant by pregnancy and what is meant by bearing a child. A lot of men don't understand that. And what type of difficulties a woman goes through in order to bear your child. And immediately after birth, we show disinterest in that same female. Why? Because she's got a little bit of fat now, a little bit of flab on her belly, for example. She's got 3 or 4 more stretch marks there, and she probably might not get back into exactly the shape she was. It's a fact. So now what happens? A lot of men then, after the first child or two, their eyes begin to wander here and there. And they start saying, oh, this woman is so pretty. Look at that woman. Why are you hurting the feelings of your own wife? It is haram in Islam to praise another woman. It is haram in Islam to praise another woman in the presence of your own spouse. Why would you like to praise another woman? For what? Especially speaking about her figure. We are not even meant to be looking in that direction. Imagine a woman who got married to you and she was in quite good shape. You made her pregnant. Really. And she got your child. And after bearing your child, you now want to praise other women. To say, no, those women have a good shape, you know. May Allah protect us. These are matters that need to be spoken about. Because a lot of people need this. A lot of people don't even know that in the Sharia we are taught all these issues. You cannot just lose interest in your spouse solely because now she's given birth. If she has given birth, do you know how high a status of a woman who is pregnant is? And the status of a woman who is giving birth is? There are so many evidences from the Sharia to prove her status. But I want to give you one. If she passes away in the condition of pregnancy or in the condition of childbirth, she will get paradise without account. Without account of her deeds. She's forgiven totally and she's given paradise straight. Through the green route, so to speak. Imagine if Allah Almighty is telling the woman that for you to endure childbirth, your level is raised so much that if you were to die in that condition, you will go to paradise. And we as men are sitting and thinking it's a big crime. You know, why? Because now I don't like what she looks like after she gave birth. I am repeating this because it is happening in many, many homes. And a lot of the times it is happening silently. And other matters that occur which create confusion for the children is the relationship we have with our in-laws. When we have a healthy relationship with our in-laws, then naturally the children will have a healthy relationship with us as well. But when there is chaos and confusion, when it comes to the relationship with in-laws, in that particular case, there will be chaos and confusion when it comes to our own children. Let me inform you, in Islam, once a couple are married, you don't interfere with their decisions. You don't interfere with their decisions. Even if it is your son or your daughter, you can try and suggest something to them, but it is wrong for you to make decisions for them. And this message is for parents who have children who are married. Parents who have children who are married need to understand that let them live their lives. Let them make their decisions. When you were young, you made your decisions. Now it's their turn to make their decisions. Their children's upbringing is their business, not yours. Now they are married. They need to start a life of their own. Many marriages are suffering great turbulence. A lot of them even break because of interference from parents on both sides. And it's a fact. It really is a fact. Across the globe this is a problem. And we don't understand as Muslims. Take a look at the Prophet ﷺ. He never ever interfered. He never ever interfered with any of his daughters' husbands. And he never interfered in their lives, not even once. I want to give you one true example of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. You know his daughter was Aisha radiallahu anha. She was married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One day he passed the room of Aisha radiallahu anha. One day Abu Bakr, who is the father of Aisha, passed the room of Aisha. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there, and they were... Aisha radiallahu anha had raised her voice, and it sounded like it was like a discussion with a debate. It sounded like that. And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he knocked the door. He was allowed to go in. He was permitted to go in. He went in. He did not ask questions. You know, most of us, when there is a problem with our children and their spouses, we side with our children. Some people say, my daughter is right, always. You are wrong. And some people say, my son is right. You are wrong. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu did not ask questions. He didn't even know what was happening. He thought there is a debate going on here. My daughter is being disrespectful. He went in and he admonished her. He admonished her. He admonished her to the degree that she began to weep. Then he went away. Few minutes later, he was passing the same room and he heard them laughing. He heard them laughing. So he knocked the door and he says, Ashrikani, this is the Arabic term, fi silmikuma. Can you make me, can you allow me to take part in your peace in the same way you made me take part in your war a few minutes ago? Moments ago I came in and I took part in your war, which means the term war is used, but it was not a war, meaning when there was a problem, I came in. Now when you people are happy, can I come in again? And the Prophet ﷺ began to laugh, and he explained to him, look, there was no problem at all. You overreacted. There was no problem at all. But why I'm mentioning this is, if we are to interfere, it should only be to rectify our side. That's the interference. To rectify, to admonish, to be strict. But we cannot begin to make decisions for others. You know, many women complain that sometimes our in-laws don't allow us to be mothers. What does that mean? I'm talking about my part of the world. But I'm sure even in Sri Lanka, everyone has 5 fingers, isn't it? So we've got the same problems. The poor lady has had a child. Now, normally there is a postnatal depression that a lot of women go through because of the vast, sudden change in body. And one person says, you know what, give the child formula milk. The other person says, give the child this type of milk. The other one says, breastfeed the child like this. The other one says, no, give them water. The poor lady is totally confused. What do I do? You'll find a whole bucket of all sorts of things, and every little while she's trying one thing and the other. And the child is all sick now. Why? Because there is chaos. Let the mother do what she wants. Really, you can advise her, you can tell her, but you cannot instruct her. She is the mother. And some people get so passionate, they don't allow mothers to be mothers. They want to be the mothers. Everyone wants to be the mother. And this is a sickness. It is happening across the globe. We need to rectify it, because we will not be able to move forward and progress as Muslims unless and until we understand what parenthood is all about. Imagine I have to interfere in my grandchildren every time, and that trend continues for generations and generations. So rather the grandparents decide that we are now the parents, finished. We can change the terminology and call parents grandparents and grandparents parents. With all due respect to grandparents. Then there is another problem, and that is the sandwich that a lot of men are put into. Why? Because on one hand you have your parents. Those are your parents. You are the child. And on the other hand you have your wife and your children. Now, where to go? Because now there is a discrepancy between the two. Should I listen to my parents or should I listen to my wife? You are now a parent yourself. Your parents have a position which will never ever drop in Islam. They have a very high, lofty position. But where they are reasonable, you will listen to what they say. Where they are not reasonable, you will explain to them like a man. To say that, do you know what? Thank you very much. I really appreciate your advice and so on. Even if you don't want to tell them, you know, I'm not going to accept what you're saying. Don't say that. Tell them, no, I understand, I appreciate, I've heard what you said, and you know, Jazakumullah, thank you very much for your advice and so on. But where they are unreasonable, you do not have to take it. You only take that which is reasonable. Sometimes some people say, look, you know what? And this is a fact. My mother comes first because paradise lies under her feet. I agree. Your mother definitely does come first. But if the paradise is there in the first place, some mothers have hell beneath their feet. May Allah protect us. What this means is, if her life is un-Islamic, what paradise do you want under her feet? She will begin to tell you to do things which are detrimental to your own self. Then you want to use this excuse to continue listening to what she's saying. She will land you in the same place she has landed. So paradise beneath the feet is correct only when we ensure that whatever we are saying or doing is within the limits of Islam. And what I am telling you this evening is connected to Islam. We are Muslims. Many people have so many problems. You know, today we are speaking about parent-child relation. Are you seeing how I have brought into the topic how parents themselves are children of others? So the parent-child relation can go through for a few generations sometimes. If you have a great-grandparent who's alive, then there is a parent-child, parent-child, parent-child relation of 3 generations. Where do you draw the line? You need to give the freedom to those who are married to live their lives according to what they feel is correct, on condition that it is within the Islamic limits. The minute they decide we don't want to read Salah, you tackle them. The minute they decide we don't want to dress Islamically, you tackle them. You can interfere. The minute they decide we don't want to read the Quran and the Sunnah, you tackle them. You can interfere. But whether or not they want to eat out or in is not your business. They go out, let them go. Be happy for them. Be happy for them. If they decide we want to go on a holiday to Hawaii, let them go on holiday. Be happy for them. If they decide, for example, that we would like to go out maybe for a lecture of this nature, we can't say, look, there'll be no one at home, so you sit, I'm going. Would that be fair? Well, it depends obviously on the situation in the house. In Islam, we are taught that rather the person who's talking stays. So, we have so many issues in the Sharia that are discussed, which are relevant to my life and yours, if only we knew. Now let's take a look at a few more aspects of the parent-parent relationship. I mentioned a point where I said, whenever you have an argument, make sure that it is not in the presence of the children. Make sure. That is the most harmful act for the children, to have a big argument. I have come across cases where they have been boxing bouts, fighting and beating in front of children. Then that child goes to school and beats up all the other children. So naturally, when you are a teacher at school and you find the child beating up all other children, it is a sign that there is something wrong in their house. It's a sign. Something is wrong. If there is no love between the spouses, what love is there going to be for the child? We need to create this love. We need to make sure it is there. Another point is that whenever we speak, we should speak with utmost respect to our spouses. Utmost respect. And make sure the children watch that and they see that. My father speaks very well to my mother, and my mother addresses my father with a lot of respect. The child will learn respect automatically. The child will learn respect without you having to tell them anything, because that is what they've been watching every day. Whatever the child watches, that's what the child does. If you read your salah on a daily basis, the child will automatically come up and want to read salah at the age of 1 and 2, and will go into the posture of sajda without anyone saying anything. I'm sure you have seen that happening. If you dress properly and appropriately, your children will dress appropriately. But if you have not dressed properly and appropriately, what do you expect from your children? A woman who wants to wear clothing that is unacceptable, for example, then she makes dua to Allah, Ya Allah, keep my children modest. She is being foolish. Because she needs to be the example of her own children. Parents need to be the role models of their own children. I don't know how bad the problem of smoking is in this country, but even a person who wants to smoke must never do so in the presence of their children, no matter what. Never. Because it is such a bad habit. If we are smoking in front of them, to them, they might be on drugs in front of us. May Allah protect us. It gets worse as time passes. خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best of generations is mine, and then the next, and then the next. Which means, as the generations are passing, they are generally becoming worse. The disrespect and disobedience is becoming much more. And we should remember that when we do something, our children will do the same to us. How you treat your parents, so your children shall treat you. How you treat your parents, so your children shall treat you. There was a certain man whose father used to visit him, rich man. And because his father was a villager, quite dirty and smelly, because you know when a person is a villager dealing with the goats and the chickens, sometimes their clothing is not smelling so good and so on. He did not used to allow his father in the house. Rather, he used to have a place outside near the chicken run, and he used to call his father and say, oh, come, have a seat and so on. And he used to give him a blanket there, and he used to sleep there outside the house. And what happened is, years later, obviously his son was watching all this. Years later, after the father passed away and so on, he once visited his son. And when he visited his son, the son threw a blanket to him and said, Dad, you know what to do. He said, what do you mean? He said, you're my dad, isn't it? So, daddies are meant to be in the chicken run. And the father began to weep. And he says, we had scholars of Islam who came to us telling us, Kama tadinu tudanu, how you treat, that's how you shall be treated. And I never believed it. And today my own son is throwing a blanket at me, telling me, Daddy, you know what to do. Which means get out now and go to the chicken run. Allahu Akbar. That's just an example. But it happens in our lives where we do things. Believe me, the circle completes itself at some stage. It will come back to us. It will come back to us. Don't think that when we are bad, it's not going to come back. It will definitely come back. And if you don't want it to come back, engage in tawbah, repent and mend your ways here and now, it won't come back.